Good day and greetings from Pretoria, South Africa. My name is Dr. Charles Cotter. I'm the Learning Navigator, the Change Management and Leadership in a Crisis online learning program, part of the e-learning series. This is an on-demand learning program and comprises of 6 modules. Each of the registered learners will receive a SlideShare presentation per module, and then also a detailed workbook which comprises the content, but also a series of learning activities, which I'll expect you to complete at the end of each of these modules. I think this is probably the best way of continuing the engagement and also to stimulate discussion between the Learning Navigator and the registered learners. As a form of introduction, I'd like to give you a quick overview of my professional pedigree. Essentially, I've been in the field of education, training, and development for the last 19 years. Of those 19, 15 as an independent contractor. I've been very privileged to have worked for over 140 different companies, both in the public and private sector. And of course, this stretches across 18 different countries and 4 different continents. My area of subject matter expertise is strategic management, change management, and also strategic human resources management. I'd now like us to move on to look at the performance equation, and using the performance equation for virtual teams, we're able to calculate what we call your performance potential score, your PPS. And again, when we tackle learning activity 17, this is something that I'd like you to use. And you'll see that performance is a function of 3 important variables. Firstly, motivation, and we will unpack this. We are going to look at the motivational strategies for virtual teams, whatever the score is for motivation. And in calculating your PPS, I would like you to keep it very simple. Use a 10-point rating scale, with 1 being a highly demotivated team, all the way through to 5 maybe, which is average in terms of the motivational levels. And if you believe that your virtual team demonstrate exceptional levels of motivation, then perhaps you could score at 8, 9, and even at 10. Whatever that rating is, I'd like you to multiply that by the ability rating within the virtual team member structure. So again, what are the competency levels, the knowledge levels, the skills levels, but also the behavioral competencies, the personal attributes, the values and the characteristics which are required for the specific roles that have been assigned within the virtual team, again using a 10-point rating scale, and then of course multiply that by the environmental rating. So please be mindful here, we're not just talking about the physical environment, we're talking about the psychological environment, we're talking about the social environment, the infrastructure environment. And I think if you read through the article of the CEO of Microsoft, this is very important. He refers to the term social capital, which is sometimes compromised as a result of the remote working culture, the virtual team structures. So the environment goes beyond just the physical and infrastructure environment. Also look at the emotional, look at the psychological, look at the social environment. And of course, you'll be able to convert this score out of 1,000, just knock 1 decimal point back to the left, and that'll give you a percentage. And again, similar to the previous diagnosis, the threshold percentage would be 65%. If you could score a PPS of 65%, you could regard yourself as a highly functional virtual team, a high-performing virtual team. We'll get to learning activity 17 very shortly. One of the important variables of the performance equation, like we've mentioned, is motivation. And I think it's very important as a change manager, as a leader of a virtual team, that you very quickly identify what motivates your team members. And I think, like we said with the previous module, when we looked at the people and talent management, motivation is a very important driver of employee retention. And of course, we said it, a happy worker tends to be a productive worker. So I think you'll agree with me that motivation of the virtual team members is a very important driver of change management success. So let's look at some of the experts are suggesting. This is a survey done by Glassdoor, who are the global thought leaders when it comes to social listening. So they scour the internet and they look at all the employee and performance reviews. And of course, they use this as a basis of generating research and performance intelligence. So what Glassdoor are suggesting is that what matters most to employees, what are employees looking for the most, what are the motivational drivers, and not surprising, and we have unpacked this with previous modules. Right at the top of the list is, of course, culture and values. The second most important aspect that motivates employees is senior leadership. And again, also based on the ProSci research, we found that senior management and leadership are very pivotal and instrumental to change management success. And again, in this case, motivation. Career opportunities is a third highest driver, work-life balance, compensation and benefits. And when you look at the synopsis of this research intelligence, it's very clear that culture and leadership, for example, are 3 times more important than salary. Now, we always argue, is money a motivator? I think we do concede that money is a mover, but maybe not a sustainable motivator. It doesn't certainly have the future-proofing effect that we sometimes desire. And career development and learning, which are also quite significant, is twice as important as compensation and benefits. So I think the lesson here for change managers and leaders is to be mindful of the fact that although money is important, money tends to be a mover and is not valued as highly as what we often anticipate. So I think the value of money as a motivator is sometimes over-exaggerated, and we overestimate the power of money. Rather focus on creating the proper culture, the value system. The senior management who are very important in driving change management success, especially during a time of crisis. And of course, people want to see a future for themselves. Career opportunities are very important. All the global research is very unanimous in terms of identifying the #1 driver of employee motivation. I don't think virtual teams, especially in the context of a crisis during times of radical change, I don't think it's an exception to the norm. And it's very clear that recognition is the #1 driver of employee motivation. And maybe the best way to describe this is a quote: a manager who's quick to criticize is usually reticent or reluctant to recognize. I absolutely love this. Positive folks rather than negative pokes always result in more productive folks. So I think it's very clear that recognition, and it's not just, as we've established, financial rewards, it's more a non-financial, more of an intrinsic kind of recognition that's very important. And especially with the management of virtual teams, where the team structure are disconnected physically and geographically from the other team members and also the team leaders. And it's very important that we constantly find innovative ways of reaching out, connecting with our team members, and saluting, recognizing, celebrating their success, and obviously through positive reinforcement, recognizing their performance excellence and positive contributions, especially during times of change. So what would be the benefits of a motivated virtual team? And I think it's very important that we understand that there's a clear link between high levels of motivation and quality and performance, high levels of commitment. We spoke about employee engagement with a previous module of this learning program, also high levels of team cohesion. And the one that I'd like us to spend some more time on is, of course, productivity. So we're going to get to that very shortly, but we need to understand, like I said, a happy worker is a productive worker, and there's a clear, almost inextricable link between motivation and productivity. High levels of motivation invariably lead to high levels of productivity. So the million-dollar question is, what is the pivotal role of the change management and leadership team in the motivation of virtual team members? And I think it's very clear. There's a couple of strategies that I'd like us to run through. Again, I've given you some notes in workbook 6, and you're welcome to add to these strategies. There's a total of 9 of them. It's a jam-packed module, so I need to run through this quite quickly. First of all, setting specific goals for employees, that's very important. We spoke about the SMART principle, making sure the goals are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Also, making sure that we facilitate a person environment, the PE fit, the person job, but also the person culture fit, which is very instrumental. We spoke about diversity management, recognition of these differences and almost shift best practice, which suggests that we need to shift from diversity management to inclusivity management so that there's a sense of belonging and team members, the virtual team members who are detached from their physical working environment, their social interaction, which is compromised with their colleagues and team leaders. It's very important that we constantly understand and respect these individual differences. Performance feedback is very important. The world famous quote by Ken Blanchard, feedback is a breakfast of champions. This is something that I learned very on in my management career, and it's stuck with me. And I think it's very important that we constantly engage in this performance feedback, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to make sure that employees know exactly where they stand. So real-time performance intelligence is very important. Also, customizing and individualizing the awards, different strokes for different folks. I think that's very important. We cannot have a one-size-fits-all. Not all employees are motivated by money, like we've established. And of course, there are certain intrinsic motivators and rewards which then should be geared towards employees who seek those out. Linking rewards to performance, performance management systems more and more are being progressive in this regard. Performance management should not be seen as a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Honor the principle of internal equity, so very important in terms of your remuneration and compensation governance, that you comply with these principles of fairness, equity, both internal and external equity, and also make sure that your motivational theories are cultural bound. So if you are a multinational company and you're managing a virtual team from different cultures and different nationalities, I think it's very important that you are sensitized and you're constantly mindful and vigilant in ensuring that your motivational strategies are not Eurocentric or Americanized, and they do cater for the differences across cultural lines and physical geographical borders. So the first video clip of Module 6 that I'd like you to view is an evergreen video clip. It's titled Who Moved My Cheese? And it's based on the best-selling book written by Dr. Spencer Johnson. I've given the YouTube video clip. I'd like you to watch it, and you'll see it's very insightful in the sense that it identifies 4 characters who respond differently to change. I think this is very important in terms of understanding our ability to motivate, ability to extract optimal levels of productivity from virtual team members. So if we do understand these 4 distinct change management characters or personalities, it will enable us to customize and tailor-make our motivational and productivity improvement strategies to get the best and the most out of people. Like we said, with our change transition cycle, with the earlier modules, module 1 and 2 of this program, you'll see it's very important to navigate people, the different personalities and how they respond to it. And again, similar to that previous video clips, what I would like you to do is to extract the lessons from this video clip. And this, of course, relates to learning activity 17, which we'll get to very shortly. When it comes to productivity, what I would like you to do is to apply what I call the LADIO principle. It's an acronym that stands for lean, agile, digital, innovative or intelligent, and also optimization. And each of them relates to the 5 variables of virtual team management best practice. In other words, when we talk about lean, we need to talk about lean virtual team structures. When we talk about agile, we need to talk about agile virtual team processes. When you talk about digital, we need to make sure that the systems used by the virtual team are indeed cutting edge and digital 5G, which has been launched to the business community. Also, the team culture, the behavior, the norms, the values that we spoke about earlier on, they must stimulate innovation, and we need to create this virtual learning organization. So intelligence is very important. We need to establish an innovative and intelligent virtual team culture. The behavior of the team must be epitomized by innovation and intelligence. And you also need to make sure that the resources that have been assigned to the virtual team, the financial resources, the material, the technological resources need to be optimized. So when you talk about the optimization, we often refer to the 4 E's of resource optimization. In other words, the virtual team resources need to be utilized efficiently, they need to be utilized effectively, they need to be utilized economically, and also the one that's often neglected, they need to be utilized ethically. So they must be fit for purpose, and of course make sure that the integrity is not compromised as we try to utilize the resources in this virtual team environment. The second reading article of Module 6 is a counterpoint to the establishment and the maintenance of virtual team structures. It's an article that was written by Monica Nicholsberg and published in May 2020. And the title of the article is "The Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella Warns About the Consequences of Embracing Remote Work Permanently." And I think you'll see that there are significant almost drawbacks if you analyze the article to the sustained utilization of virtual teams. So again, you'll find a full copy of the article in Workbook 6. I'd like you to read through it, and then similar to what we said with Learning Activity 17, 17.1, I'd like you to calculate the performance potential score, the PPS, by utilizing the performance equation. In other words, the motivational levels multiplied by the ability levels, multiplied by the team environment, and of course, develop the strategies to improve on any of these deficient variables. In other words, if you feel that motivation is lacking, what can we do to improve on the motivational levels? Question 17.2 has to do with the motivation and inspiration of virtual team members. I've theoretically given you a rundown, a very brief rundown of 9 of the foremost motivational strategies. I would like you to elaborate on those and again, utilize those that you think are the most effective. Also, in reference to the video clip, "Who Moved My Cheese?" Again, as a change leader, I'd like you to indicate if you do find any or all of these change management personalities or characteristics within your virtual team structure, how will, of course, you manage these effectively? I think virtual teams is a newish kind of team structure. And again, you may find at the front end of the change management process that there is initially resistance to change. Question 17.4, I'd like you to apply the LADIO principles to productivity improvement of your virtual team. So in other words, if you look at the structures, are they lean? If you look at the processes, are they agile? Your systems, are they digital? The culture and the behavior within the virtual team, is it intelligent and innovative? And of course, the resource allocation, is it optimized by the application of the 4 E's? Again, identify where you need to improve, and of course, just give me a couple of improvement strategies of how you expect to turn around the productivity and enhance the productivity levels within your virtual team structure. 17.5 deals with the reading article. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella warns about the consequences. So what I would like you to do is to extract the consequences. What are these consequences? What are these pitfalls? What is the drawback of using a virtual team structure on a permanent basis? And like I said, it is to provide a counterbalance, a counterpoint to this avalanche of support for virtual team structures, this remote working culture. I think consolidate all of this into a 4 to 5 page essay. And again, please email me that as soon as you can so that we can continue this particular learning engagement.
This is Charles Cotter signing out. I'd like to thank you for watching the video clip, Change Management and Leadership in a Crisis online learning program. Please be on the lookout for subsequent uploads on my YouTube learning channel of the other modules. Also, please have a look at the chat box section. You'll see in the comment section. If you'd like to access a copy of the workbook in PDF format, I'll gladly email that to you for this specific module, but also the other modules of the various video clips. I'd also like to remind you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. please press the notification bell to be alerted of the subsequent uploads of the other modules, and also like to encourage you to reach out and contact me. My contact details and social media presence will be provided on the screen very shortly, so I'd encourage you to reach out. And of course, I would welcome any sort of communication or feedback regarding this video clip or any other learning content on my YouTube learning channel. Thank you. I appreciate your ongoing interest and active social media support. Thank you. You keep well. Bye-bye.